What's going on, guys? Wei from Revolution. Tonight I want to tell you a story a little bit about how the Chopard Alpine Eagle XL Chronograph saved my sanity. So anyways, you guys know the Chopard Alpine Eagle was a watch that was launched in 2019. It was based ostensibly on the St. Moritz, which was a watch, actually Carl Friedrich Schäufele's very first watch, which he launched when he was 20 years old, back in 1979-1980. It was a big success in the 1980 Basel Fair. He'd already sold 1,000 of those watches, and it kind of like set him up to be a great leader in the watch industry. So cut to 36 years later in 2016, and Carl Fritz, who is Carl Friedrich's son, started thinking about creating a modern version of the St. Moritz. And so he kind of designed it in secrecy with the collaboration of his grandfather and, of course, his aunt, Caroline Schäufele. And they came up with something that they thought was really cool. And so at the point in which they thought it was ready, they presented it to Carl Friedrich. And Carl Friedrich, who was initially not crazy about the idea of kind of relaunching the St. Moritz, saw something really cool there. And so they made a deal, and the whole idea was that they would only launch that watch when everyone was happy with it. And so eventually they did in 2019, and that was the Alpine Eagle. And they followed that up in 2020 with the Alpine Eagle Chronograph, which is a watch that both of the watches I loved, right? So the Alpine Eagle Chronograph was a watch that actually won Revolution's 2020 Design Award, and eventually I got the opportunity to own one. And it's been on my wrist for, quite some time. But the story that I wanted to tell you is about how that watch basically saved my sanity. So I'm a big Dachshund fan, as you guys know, and my two Dachshunds passed away in 2019, and it was very traumatic. They passed away at the age of 15, so they had great lives. But I think, the only person that went through COVID without a dog, right? So 2020 was a year where everyone picked up a dog, and I didn't. And so in 2021, in the beginning of the year, just around Chinese New Year, which is about March, I saw a Dachshund in my spin class, which belonged to the yoga instructor there. And it was the kind of greatest looking dog, like the cutest dog that I'd seen, and I loved her personality. She was like the kind of dog that would just flop on her belly and ask to be like belly scratched. And so I found out where the dog was from, and I realized that her sister was for sale. And so I guess the lesson here is don't go to browse for a dog, because you'll basically just buy the dog. And so I saw Bandit, who was 6 months old at the time, and she's so adorable. So I was wondering why she hadn't been sold, until I realized that I think fate had sort of made sure that she and I were destined to meet. So I bought Bandit, and she came into my life, and she's been nothing but the greatest pleasure. She's looking for her bone right now, Bandit. And everyone in the office here is in love with her. She comes to the office with me every day. She sits in my car. She is the most chill, just sort of like great dog. But the interesting thing was, in the context of 2021, I hadn't had a dog for a while, and I hadn't had a puppy for a really long time. And so I forgot how to toilet train a dog. And I was basically running around after Bandit all the time, trying to gauge from her facial expression or her body language if she needed to go out and pee or poo. And it was kind of driving me crazy, right? So eventually I was introduced to this great dog trainer, and her name was Steph. And Steph said, okay, I've got a system, and I can guarantee you that this is going to help Bandit become toilet trained, right? And the system was as follows. So you have to break down the day into segments of time, right? So let's say Bandit goes to the toilet outside, then you've got a 3-hour segment. And in the first hour after she's gone to the toilet, yes, you, she's safe, because she won't need to go to the toilet again. In the second hour, she's going to need supervision, and you can put her on a little bed and tether her or leash her to your leg, because a dog won't spoil its own den, right? And then in the last hour or half an hour, you put her in a crate if she likes her crate, and Bandit likes her crate, and then she's ready to go to the toilet, right? And if you bring her downstairs and she doesn't pee and poo, then you put her back in the crate for 15-minute intervals until she does. And then when she does, you reward her big time. You praise her, you give her treats. And this is kind of funny, because Bandit is a Generation Z dog, right? And I think that's kind of true with Generation Z people as well. Like, you can't discipline them through hardship. You have to only teach them through positive reinforcement. And for everyone out there that's working with Generation Z people, or parents that have Generation Z children, I'm sure you'll agree with me. So anyway, the trainer, Steph, said, okay, but in order for you to do this system, right, you're going to need a notebook and a pen in order to keep track of the time. And I said, dude, I don't need a notebook. I don't need a pen. What I need is a chronograph with an hour counter and a flyback function, and I knew immediately the watch that I would get would be the Alpine Eagle XL Chrono, because first of all, it's automatic, so it'll always be running. Second of all, it's column wheel activated, which means it's column wheel activated, which is really nice. It's a mark of distinction of a high-end chronograph, but it's vertical clutch, which means that that watch can continue to run all day long, all week long, all year long, with no adverse effect on the underlying timing of the watch, right? Which is super important. And then most importantly, it had an hour counter, but it had one additional thing on top of that. It was flyback, right? So flyback means when you hit the reset button, it jumps back to 0 and everything starts counting again. So what I do is I wait for the 3-hour period to be over, when I wait for Bandit to go downstairs and she'll pee or she'll poop, and I'll give her massive positive reinforcement. And as soon as she does, then I'll hit the flyback function and we start the countdown all over again, right? And that watch has basically saved my sanity. And within a week, thanks to the structure, because dogs like structure, and they like to repeat the same thing over and over again, Bandit was effectively toilet trained. And I would say she's pretty much at a 90% sort of percentile now in terms of her accuracy at performing her ablutions only outdoors. This afternoon we had a little bit of an accident, but to be fair, I was a bit remiss in terms of keeping track of the time. It's probably because I didn't have this watch on my wrist. So every time I do have this watch on my wrist, it reminds me of what an amazing watch it is, first of all. Second of all, that I love Chopard's dedication to creating movements that are amongst the best, if not the best in the world. So again, vertical clutch, flyback, hour counter, column wheel, and a precise jumping minute counter as well, which I think is amazing. And actually in the other version of this, which you get in the LUC watches, which is the 10 CF, that movement actually has a 0 reset mechanism for the small seconds, which is the only chronograph in the world that has it. So that's the expression of like real horological value that Chopard, consistently sort of produces. So this movement's amazing. The watch is beautiful. I love the design of it. I love the story of it being a multi-generational watch. But I love it in particular because it's the watch that helped me save my sanity and cement the relationship and bond between Bandit and myself. So to Chopard, to Carl Friedrich Schäufele, thank you very much. And it looks like it's 3 hours are up, so I better go take her pee. Bye.